With its classic visuals, many book lore inaccuracies, one of which is of course the telepathic Bene Gesserit, why do I still love David Lynch's Dune? Friends, let's find out, and welcome to another Dune video. My introduction to Dune was the film. I watched it with my parents from a young age, along with a lot of other science fiction from Star Wars to The Last Starfighter. So the 80s Dune movie is one of those films that sits in your head and that you can quote along with over and over again. Things like, "A storm is coming," "Our storm," "Muad'Dib no longer needs the weirding module," or "My name is now a killing word." One of those childhood movies that I still watch alongside the new ones today. I love the performances for Paul, Chani, Leto, Jessica, Gurney. Duncan, I have to admit, doesn't get a lot of screen time, and thus I never appreciated him in that movie. And Thufir doesn't get the more interesting plot from the book, so he feels pretty thin, and I will come back to some of these roles later to say a little more. I love the costumes, especially Jessica and the Bene Gesserit as a whole, and the sets all have character to them. You have to love the Emperor's golden throne. It's so ostentatious, and though I love music and have an ear for it, there are not many films where I could say that I love the soundtrack, or particular tracks from the soundtrack. But I do in this film. Among them, I would say that the Chani and Paul theme grabs me, the Kwisatz Haderach Paul theme, which I think is called Prophecy. We get it at the start and at the end, and it builds up so well. The last version at the end is especially great when the choir kicks in and the electric guitar kicks in. It's epic. And even a track like the one that plays over the closing credits, which is more chilled, is still very enjoyable. I loved the design of the massive cylinder spacecraft, or Guild Highliners as we know them. The scene where the Atreides leave Arrakis. I can see my notes are wrong here. It's clearly Caladan that they leave and not Arrakis. When the Atreides leave Caladan and we see all the ships going inside it, like the Denis Villeneuve movie, it gives a great sense of scale to the size of the Guild Highliners. I also enjoy the Guild Navigators and the trippy way they float around and choose the right planet. Though of course in the books the Highliners move around with the Horseman drives, and the Navigators just do the navigating. But for the sake of there being so much to explain, I can live with what we get here. I understand now that the film follows its own course in a lot of ways, and differs from the books, but I didn't realise it till I read the book, and properly appreciated it. When I was older, those differences stood out more. Let's go over a few, and I will give my opinion. First, the Bene Gesserit are telepaths. I think it works for the movie. Though a friend of mine gets very annoyed there is so much inner monologuing, it's never really bothered me. So much of the books is people's inner thoughts, it's hard to show a lot of that in a clear way. There's so much dense material to convey, even with very good actors playing those roles. Another thing is the weirding way. It's essentially a way to move fast and fight quickly in the novels, and shown even in the David Lynch movie when Jessica grabs Stilgar. But it's mainly shown through sonic weapons in the movie. The weirding way are sonic weapons in this film. Now we see fight scenes around this time in Star Wars, and think of Bruce Lee even before then. Incredible fight scenes, especially in Enter the Dragon. And so you could perhaps have done something with some sort of fighting martial art in the older movies. But we got sonic weapons. But I quite enjoy them, especially scenes like, think of the Fremen riding on the back of sandworms, cutting down the Sardaukar with them. If I recall, Chani eliminates one from the back of a worm and uses the name Muad'Dib. Pretty cool. Not in the books, but I still enjoy them. What I don't like are the Harkonnens. Like some crazy offspring of the Weasleys from Harry Potter. The Harkonnens, I just find them too silly. Sting is decent as Feyd-Rautha for the little we get from him. He looks the part, certainly, and he shows a nice crazy obnoxious edge to him when he fights later in the movie. But otherwise, Rabban and the Baron especially, as a whole, are too comical and over the top for me to take them as a threat. And that has always coloured my appreciation of those characters, even having read the novel several times. You'll probably notice on the channel I've not done many videos on them. That's because I've never really cared for them. One Fremen I do love amongst them is Charles Everett McGill III as Stilgar. I just wish he got more time, and I wish we got more time with the Fremen as a whole. It always feels like a rush to get through their parts to the climactic battle of Arrakeen, after so much slower time was spent earlier in the movie. And yes, I have seen the longer cut, for some scenes at least, things like Jarmis, which is removed from the film, but I still feel feel like we could get something more in depth. I enjoyed the bond between Paul and China in the movie and feel that connection between them, though they don't get a lot of screen time to go deeper. And also a special mention for Jessica and Leto. As much as I love the new performances, the old movie's images still stay with me when I'm reading the book. And then we come to Shai Hulud, the makers, the Sandworms. I still like how they move through the sand. There always seems to be a storm around them for some reason, and they give those strange roars like some sort of prehistoric creature. But I think it works overall. You get a sense of how formidable they are. And I think Alia works as well, overall. I saw the actress who played her many years later in a great series called Justified, starring Timothy Oliphant and Walton Goggins, who steals the show as Boyd Crowder. It was only later I realised she had played the little girl so long ago in Dune. The dubbing doesn't quite match up, and it looks a little lame in that aspect, but I still think she gives a certain glee in her performance, especially when she confronts the Baron at the end with the Gom Jabbar. And there's a great scene which is a tribute to her name as Saint Alia of the Knife. Now there's always more to say, and maybe I will say a little more in the future, but for now I'll wrap up this general opinion piece on David Lynch's Dune. Yes, I love it for all its flaws, for all its goofiness, barring the Harkonnens. Do you like the film? Yes or no? Tell me why. How do you think it compares to the new movie? Personally, I think I've just got 2 really good Dune movies to watch, and a third one hopefully next year in part 2. And that, friends, is where I'll wrap up today's video.